You're listening to The Talent Sync. The Talent Sync is a talent board and job sync collaborative podcast production about anything and everything recruiting and hiring. Literally the kitchen sink on how all things in talent acquisition work together, should work together, and how sometimes they don't. Now it's time to sync up with your hosts, Kevin Grossman and Leah Daniels. Today's topic is, where are the Momomizers? Who's optimizing our talent teams and tech stacks? Enjoy the podcast. Leah, hello. How are you doing?
Kevin, so wonderful to hear from you today.
You know, it is, and I love every time we have these conversations, and I got to tell you a little story, because I went to see my best friend who lives about 4 hours away from us inland. And just a quick aside, when we were in high school, he was a swimmer and a water polo player, and he broke his neck at a swim meet, and he's been paralyzed ever since. So he lives on his own. He does pretty well, but he's got to have home health care, et cetera. But he broke his leg recently, trying to transfer from his bed to his chair. And so some of us, we've had a group of friends for like over 40 years, and I haven't been able to get up there to see him.
Oh no.
And I finally got to go, and we had a really good time. Then everything went south, because as I was going to leave and drive home on Sunday, I started to feel horrible, and my body remembered the feeling of what we all commonly know as the stomach flu, otherwise known as norovirus. And it started coming on, and I'm like, this is just not good at all. I don't know how I got it.
Kevin, I don't know if anyone wants to hear this story.
Well, I'm not going to I promise I won't get too graphic. I promise I won't go to the graphic stage, but I'm thinking, oh my, this is just not good. And so anyway, I still have to drive 4 hours. So I get in the car. I'm doing okay. No accidents. I'm getting home. Everything's good. And then, when I got home, then all hell broke loose, and that's all I'm going to say. But the point being is, right, then if you've ever had it before, it's extremely contagious. Like if a family member gets it, the odds of another family member getting it are pretty high. Doesn't always happen, because I have had it over the years. But the fact of the matter is, though, initially my wife was taking care of me, and then my oldest got sick and taking care of all of us. But then mom went down, and listen, I'm a pretty involved husband and dad, and to help take care of things around the house, etc. But, and this is my segue to what we're talking about today. And you can give me a letter grade for this or not. I don't know. We'll decide in a minute. But the segue is that when mom goes down, it's not a good thing, right? Mom is the ultimate optimizer of things, right? Of everyday things, of processes, of technologies that we use at home, of getting the kids to school. You know this because you're mom, right? And when mom goes down, it's like, like this morning, and I do pretty well, but I'm trying to, I've got to contact my youngest teachers to let them know she's not going to come. And I'm like, where's that information at? And I'm on the school board, and I know this, right? But I'm just drawing a blank. My wife is asleep upstairs, and I'm like, what do I do? My oldest goes, just go to the directory online, Dad. I'm like, oh yeah, that part. Okay, there we go. So anyway, the whole point of that little diatribe was that when mom as optimizer, but we're going to talk today about why is it so hard, and why don't we have more quote unquote moms on our TA teams that are helping to optimize processes internally at organizations as well as their tech stacks. That was the whole long-winded story of what we're getting to.
It's interesting, Kevin, because I do think a lot of companies, teams, recruiting and otherwise, have a person on the team that just seems to know everything, have all the information at their fingertips or in their brain. They can answer questions quickly. They're more than just the optimizer. They're like the knowledge center. And what's super interesting is when those people leave and you look around and realize, first of all, you probably didn't thank them enough. So if you've got a mom on your team, certainly thank them right now. But also, we don't do a great job at spreading that kind of responsibility and knowledge. And I wonder sometimes if it's because these tend to be people who've been around for a really long time. And so they have institutional knowledge. Or is it because it's actually a very thankless job and people less and less are willing to step into it?
Let's unpack that even more, right? Because when using mom as optimizer metaphor, in the past few years, one thing we've seen a lot more TA leaders and their teams get burnt out and leave or be laid off. Right, unfortunately, too, which we've seen that happening in droves.
And some of them both.
And both. And the fact is that you have, like, I think I might have mentioned this on a previous show, but when you think about that institutional knowledge of how you're running recruiting and hiring and how you're, again, trying to maximize the TA stack that you have as well with the team that you have. But when we have companies that are jumping in and participating in our benchmark research again this year that just participated a few years ago or even just pre-COVID and have no institutional memory of doing that, they didn't realize that they did it. And there's a couple of... Everyone's new. They didn't even realize that they won a Candy Award. Right. And from the past. And that's like, wow, it's just a few years. Then the question is, are we ever really going to be able to optimize anything? Right. I mean, just asking when I'm in a room with folks in a workshop and we're talking about, have you applied for your own jobs? Do you go through the application process as a candidate to understand what that experience is like and realize, we're making them fill out these forms, the redundancies 15,000 times or whatever that experience is like. And, it's still like just smattering of hands go up. Not a lot do that. Where does that all start? I mean, I know everybody's running a million miles a minute, right? Especially for any size company, Leah, right? I mean, whether it's a high growth startup, it's a mid-size to global enterprise, everybody's busy and I know there's a lot of legacy stuff. And when do you stop and really say, wait, we keep doing it this way?
What's interesting, Kevin, because we talk a lot about applying for your own jobs. You say it, I say it. I've heard everybody in the space say it. I encountered a CEO who I'm not going to call out who they are, but this was a few years ago, and they actually did an undercover boss, applied for their own jobs at their company, and went through the whole process up to like an actual interview. So they did phone screens, the whole thing, because they wanted to know not.
This was a CEO.
This was a CEO who did this. And part of it was because they wanted to see what the whole process, as much of the process as they could get their hands on, what that was like. And I think that's an important thing, right? Especially with, you like to talk about the Candy Awards. And one of the things that I always take away from the Candy Awards is that the candidate experience does not stop when they hit apply on your application.
No.
In some arguments, it just started.
It doesn't start.
It's just started, right?
But I'm going to argue it started way before that. It's all the time. It's an always on thing. It's like how I perceive your brand, what I'm researching. If I come across a job posting because I had a bad day at work and now I may be interested in applying, and it's all the things before pre-application and post.
The brand piece is interesting because there is no brand, right? If you're not a consumer brand or you're not a huge employer in the area, you may not have no brand, which isn't a bad thing or a good thing. It's just a statement of fact. But these companies kind of have zoned in. And I think that we as an industry have done this to people. We've zoned them in on one part of the process. And I think sort of to our point about mom and the whole process and all of the little bits and pieces, if you don't have technology filling those pieces in, then a human is going to be doing it. And your optimizer, your human, your knowledge center, your heart of your recruiting team is often the one telling all the new people what those pieces are, the manual pieces, the parts you don't realize that you have to take the reports from the left over here and bring them over to the right over there. That person disappears and you realize that your tech stack isn't connected. That when you're done hiring someone, onboarding happens in a different team with a different tech stack and it's not integrated to your ATS and you're going to send an email, right? Like that's crazy. But think about if you lose the person who knows this, or if you centralize it to that person and they're gone, where do you go from there? How do you move forward, right?
Time for a talent sync break.
Hey everybody, Kevin Grossman here, president of Talent Board and the Candidate Experience Awards. Our 2023 Candidate Experience Benchmark Research Program will open in January and run through August 31st. To learn more on how your organization can participate, go to thetalentboard.org.
Break time's over. Now back to the talent sync.
That is the big existential question, actually. So when I think about some of the candidate experience optimization work that we've done, it was less on optimizing the tech for the companies, although we touched on candidate communications, it was more about process optimization and things that they have control over about how and when they're communicating with candidates, how they're treating them throughout the process, right? And we look at the candidate journey and we look at their candidate communications and we look at the data that they captured and we make all these recommendations. And some companies that we worked with over the past few years, we have seen them make some dramatic improvements and they instituted those, but then new leadership came in.
Yep.
Like new TA leadership. And then all of a sudden, priorities changed. And they decide that I like this shiny object over here now. So I want to get this new ATS or this new CRM or this new conversational AI tool. And I want to put that into place or decentralize our recruiting structure. I mean, that's something that we see that over the years, right? That kind of evolves over every few years. We see companies go from centralized to decentralized and back again. I mean, it kind of makes the mind boggle, right? That if priorities change, if leadership changes, you have churn on the team. And even if you've been documenting how you're managing your recruiting and hiring and the processes that you put into place and the tech stacks that you're trying to leverage to better recruit and hire, how can you sustain consistency though, right? With all that happening all the time.
Well, and Kevin, it's worse, right? So let's just take the last 3 years. Our recruiting teams have had their priorities as a global statement shifted 6-8 times. Right? We went into a pandemic. We had unemployment at the bottom of the floor. We went into a pandemic. It shot up to 22%. It dropped back down. We were back into a talent war. Then we went into employee engagement, employee mobility, retention. Oh, no, wait, now we're back. We're into tech layoffs. The world is ending. Oh, no, wait, maybe it's not ending. We're all just going to take a big breath and hold it for a moment. We've seen a lot of shift of the priorities of a global statement for our talent teams. And then you layer in what you're talking about. You bring in new leadership. You've got churn in the recruiting department. And I think one of the biggest challenges for our tech teams in our recruiting world is that they are unable to understand the unique complexities of each and every one of these recruiting teams. These recruiting teams are not like other types of organizations where you say, okay, B2B marketing is B2B marketing is B2B marketing. You've got a number of choices, but really you kind of have a roadmap. Because we have the centralization, decentralization, we have companies who have hiring happening at the storefront. You have companies that are hiring all in one building. You have people who are hourly and high volume, and you just constantly need a pipeline of folks where other companies need highly skilled workers, and each one is going to be handheld through the process. These are very, very different types of recruiting. And so when you start to bring in new leadership who understands surface level, but may not understand yet all of the deep rooted processes that exist, why they exist, are they institutional or are they government regulations? Are there some other reason we need to do it a certain way? Just simply haven't had the opportunity to understand all those pieces. And then you bring in the shiny new technology. And to be fair, the shiny new technology is really confident that they are awesome technology for you, every one of them. They're so good. And it's hard to figure out where those gaps are, right? When you're talking to a team who does truly want to help you. I think most tech vendors really do want to help their customers. I don't think that they come in with a malicious intent. I think they want to help and they think they can help. But it's hard to know, do those puzzle pieces really fit like we think they do? Or are there going to be some gaps? And inevitably there's some gaps. I was saying to you earlier, I'm going to talk out both sides of my mouth today a little bit because I remember working at an organization who very much believed the problem was the customer had bad process. It's not our technology, it's the customer's bad process. So all we have to do is fix the customer's bad process before we put the technology in. This is so simple. Everything will be great. That didn't work. Didn't work all the time. Sometimes it worked. I'll be honest. There were sometimes it was just bad process. But a lot of times there was process there for a good reason, and the vendor just couldn't understand the good reason. They couldn't comprehend it. And I think for companies, it's really hard when you're looking at new tech to make sure the vendor that's working with you, that wants to help you, really understands why that process is there and not that it's superfluous or just a bad process. But I also think some companies to do a better job of making sure they're upfront about all of these things. I think companies forget to share some information that becomes very relevant sometimes too late. So it's a little bit on both sides, but there's some work to be done on that for sure.
I know that is how it works. And that's also why you have a whole industry of implementation firms and consultants who are helping to make sure that square peg fits into the round hole sometimes too.
It's interesting because I think
that
some of those guys are really amazing, and some of them also have the same problems, right? So it's interesting because I don't even wish this upon anyone. How you go and figure out if the vendor in front of you, the implementation specialist in front of you, if they're both the right people to help you understand the optimization process for your business, right? Because that's the piece. It's really important. It's not a playbook you can just lift and shift.
Well, and to take a page out of your book too, we can't forget, and this entire equation of optimizing is we can't, because you reminded me of this before many times. We can't forget compliance considerations either. Right. So, I mean, that's definitely going to be in security considerations, and I mean, everything from GDPR and, regulations that are in-country regulations, the US and EMEA and APAC. I mean, it does get really, really complicated, but those are things that have to be part of that equation. So if I am vetting a technology, a platform that I want to implement, whatever that is, I've already had hopefully a cross-functional team that's been put together to vet the vendors, shortlist it, identify which one we want, go through the contract procedure, right? Red line back and forth. What do we agree on? These are the terms. I mean, and you know this because this is the world you live too every day, right? And then we sign on the dotted line. Everybody's happy, but then even more of the real work begins at that point, right?
I was at Bullhorn many years ago and we worked with this time card company, and I loved them. They used to tell every customer, it's going to get worse before it gets better, but I promise it'll get better. And I kind of love that because I feel like that is what every implementation vendor should say at the beginning of the implementation. It's going to get worse before it gets better. But no one wants to say that, right? And why does it get worse? It gets worse for a lot of reasons, because from most implementations I've lived through, and I have lived through quite a few, there is this part where it's part technology implementation, part therapy.
Well, what do you mean by that?
Technology, as much as we would all like to believe it's shockingly flexible and can do anything, it probably can. You also have to pay an exorbitant amount of money for it to do anything. So in the world which most of us live, where we don't have unlimited checkbooks, we then have to take the not unlimited cost one option, which means there are trade-offs. And trade-offs become interesting because when you start to present the trade-offs is when you start to really understand what's happening inside of a company, and the company starts realizing what's happening inside of the company.
Give me an example of what you mean when you say trade-off. You don't have to obviously, what does that mean?
I'll use my own world, for example. We work with a company, and recently we took them from integrated easy apply directly into their iSIMs. So they had all the easy apply, first name, last name, phone number, email address, right into iSIMs. And they loved those. So many leads, Kevin, leads for days. There were no candidates.
Leads galore.
I'm not sure there were any hires, but they had leads. They loved their leads. And their compliance team was launching a 1-year program to get the recruiters to stop recruiting out of the leads, which was against EEO and OFCCP. Okay, 1-year plan to get rid of that. So we said, okay, we will integrate for you. We'll integrate all of your Indeed, your whole application natively into Indeed. No big deal. We'll put them in iSIMs. You'll be able to hire people. You will have no more easy apply leads. And the compliance team said, hallelujah. And the recruiters went, what? No, can't take away our leads. What will we do?
Right, exactly.
And because you have to make a choice. You can either have one or the other.
So what happened?
Well,
so they lost their leads.
Just to be clear, the compliance team won, as one would expect. And the recruiting team is perfectly happy because the number of applicants they got tripled. So we were okay in the end. But you had to let go of the lovey first. And there was a lot of therapy, weeks of therapy with a big recruiting team about how it was going to be okay. And it wasn't going to be the worst thing that ever happened. But this is my point. Like, you have this process. It may be painful. It may not be ideal, but you have it and you know it and you can do it. And the team kind of leans into that. And when you're asking them to wholesale change because their process is not ideal in this particular case, it's hard. It's hard. And honestly, they had a mom. Just so you know, Kevin, they had a mom who was like, it's going to be okay, everybody.
They had a mom optimizer in the house then. Is that
They
what they
did.
had? Yeah.
And they had to all hold hands and they had to talk about it, but they got through it because, well, one, they had no choice because the compliance team was going to win. But it's kind of like when mom or dad says you have to do this, and the kids are like, I'm going to fight it anyway, even though I'm going to lose. It's one of those situations. But they did have a small group of people internally who were sort of working through the teams and helping them understand that, yes, you were going to give up X, but you were going to get Y instead. And that was important, right? It was important to have that person.
Time for a Talent Sync break.
Hi, Talent Sync listeners. I just wanted to share a bit about JobSync with you all. JobSync helps companies get more quality candidates out of their job board advertising and automates a variety of manual recruitment tasks by solving for the very low conversion rate challenges most companies experience on their career site. JobSync integrates your entire application, including all of your questions, directly into the various job boards' quick apply processes, providing you with fully completed applications directly into your ATS and resulting in 2 to 5 times more candidates while dropping your cost per application by half. This helps return up to 10 hours a week back into your recruiter's time through custom automations that are based on your business-specific recruiting processes. JobSync works with most major ATSs like Workday, SuccessFactors, and Taleo, CRMs, programmatic platforms, and job boards like Indeed and Zip. You can check out jobsync.com to learn more.
Break time's over. Now back to the Talent Sync.
Oh, totally. And when I can tell you, when you got to have multiple mom optimizers, though. You need to have mom optimizers. Say that 5 times fast, by the way.
Momomizers.
Mom optimizer. Momomizers. Ooh, I like that. That's going to be a new word. And part of what we're going to title this episode is the Momomizers. Anyway,
I love it.
So you need Momomizers in leadership. You need Momomizers on the core team. And you do because, and you need to limit, we talk about bias a lot, right? But you need to limit the denial as much as possible because sometimes, I don't know about you, but I've been in meetings when we're talking to a recruiting team and their leader about their benchmark data with us, for example, and like, this is showing us that the interview process is really kind of broken. And when I hear the leaders say, that's not true, and nobody else on the call says a word, right? Because usually I hear something maybe later, like, we actually know that. But if you're Momomizer, which wouldn't even be one if they're in denial, then that also kind of stops everything in its tracks too, doesn't it? You've got to be able to be willing to say, okay, we understand, like, why are we losing whatever that process is? Why are we losing qualified candidates at this point all the time? Is it relate to an internal process? Is it a hiring manager issue? Is it a tech issue? Identifying what that is and being willing to lean in and say, yes, we know this is the case and we do have to do something about it.
A lot of the times I feel like, here, I'm going to say my opinion. I feel like a lot of these battles internally have a very strong opinion basis. They're not necessarily rooted in this data you're talking about. And I had somebody say to me the other day, always bring data to an opinion fight, right? And I think that is the thing, right? A lot of these broken processes, these people who are unwilling to make the adjustments and the change are, it's comfortable. It's their opinion. It's always been done that way. My least favorite statement out there. And data really does make things so much clearer. So you can fix a lot of these things with some data. If it's a hiring manager problem, bring the data because you have other hiring managers, right? You can fix this.
You can, if you, right. That's also how to make that. That's also putting the business case together to make the change in the first place of why you need to improve this process A or whether it's a team issue, whether it's a tech issue, because, that the long adage too of no amount of new recruiting technology is going to improve crappy processes. It's just not going to. It's just going to amplify it and make it worse at the end of the day, right?
And there are still a lot of bad processes out there. I will say that. On the other, I'm saying, on one hand, you can't have your tech vendors telling you what your process should be. I actually do believe that. But there are a lot of bad processes out there. We work with a company who, to this day, hiring nurses still requires a 7-person panel interview at the same time.
Why?
Why, Kevin? Why?
Have they told you why? I'm just curious.
Yes, because that's the way it's always been done.
I know. That's part of the problem with legacy process, right? Not necessarily productive or makes a difference or improves what I'm trying to actually accomplish. It is just the way that we've done it. And that can be hard to shake, especially when you have, if in the interview side.
That particular company hires nurses, right? Hires nurses. They're going to go out of business. This is a process that will actually drive this company out of business because without enough nurses, they cannot take patients. So this one process that they are holding on to will be detrimental to their business. And that is where it gets really interesting, right? Somebody in leadership needs to take a minute and run the data. This business case is existential to their business, to the survival of it, right? And that's where, you got to look at these processes and figure out which ones are the ones really worth fixing, right? Which ones do you need to focus on? Because I would argue most companies have lots of bad processes, tons of them. Doesn't mean you need to fix them all today.
Well, it doesn't, and I think you're right about that. I mean, so as we kind of round out this episode, which I think just the very nature of what we've been talking about can be uncomfortable and awkward too, right? Because it's like we've seen so much over the years, some really good people that we both have worked with, and companies that we've worked with that have really made a concerted effort to make improvements, to optimize their teams and their tech that they involve. But it's hard work to do that. But I can tell you, a lot of companies, we talked about this in our pre-boarding episode, right? Where they're losing folks before day one and they start. Well, Southwest Airlines, even through all the redeployment that they did during the pandemic, they just now have an actual established pre-employment team that they put together for ground crew operations at all the airports to ensure that there is nurturing and engagement going on with those folks. Because sometimes their start dates can move based on approvals and background checks and maintenance testing, and the list goes on, as a dedicated team and group. So that's something they put into place, the process to ensure that those individuals feel like I am included here and I'm still excited to start, even though maybe it's 2 months from now, which can be the case sometimes, right? So that's something that was a positive fix so far that they're investing in that is going to help them at the end of the day. Another quick example, interview scheduling. Right? Interview scheduling has been a headache, bane of the existence. But yet, speaking of the tech side, we do have tools that are helping to make the process of scheduling and rescheduling much easier for recruiters, right? So there are things that do work and do get fixed.
So two things, Kevin, just on that. One, 100%, if you don't have an automated interview scheduling tool, I don't sell one, but you should totally have one. I support this 100%. Drives me crazy, anyone that hasn't adopted this. What a waste of time for everybody. Two, this is the interesting part. Tech, and we're going to dig into this at another point, is sometimes part of the problem. So there are a lot of great interview scheduling tools. Some companies' calendaring systems won't allow them to integrate in. There is another issue, right? We run into this other challenge where a lot of the tech systems out there, including a lot of the popular ATSs, are walled gardens. They don't want to play nicely with others. And I think that customers have got to figure out how to be more demanding that their tech accommodate the customer and not just accommodate the strategic direction of the technology itself.
No, I agree. And that was the whole point of configurable SaaS-based software too, right? Over the years. So anyway, gosh, we were only just getting started, but you know what? It is time, Leah. It's that time to say farewell, and in honor of you as Momomizer, is that what we said? Is that what we're calling it?
Momomizer. I think I'm Momomizer.
Momomizer, and my wife and you and all those out there that are doing that at home and in their businesses today. Kudos to you all, because we need more of you, and we don't need you to go down. We don't need you to get sick. Please. We need you to stay well.
I think, Kevin, our timing here will probably have this episode roll right around Mother's Day. So we'll honor the moms, but also honor the moms of who could be dads or
you're right.
Organizations who are the people who keep the trains on time at a lot of our organizations.
I think it's more of as a metaphor for somebody who is a nurturing and engaging leader and connector, and a person who gets things done. That's so whether it's, you're right, they, them, he, she, doesn't matter. But for me, it's a Momomizer. So there you go. That's our new word, Leah.
I love it.
So,
I love it.
Great talk.
Nice to talk to you today.
Great talking with you today. And we'll keep the conversation going next time. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Thank you for listening to the Talent Sync podcast, a Talent Board and Job Sync collaborative podcast production. More episodes soon.